So we were talking about the Parliament and this organ we call Parliament in seduto comune, when the Senate is sitting together with the Chamber of Deputies. It creates another organ, constitutional organ. And we've gone through a couple of reasons why it sits, what its purposes are, and now we're going to look at the third reason. We've said that it does judge if the President of the Republic has violated the Constitution or betrayed Italy in some way. It judges not whether what he has done, whether he's done it or not, but should there be an accusation, and the judgment of him would actually be in front of the Constitutional Court, not in front of the Parliament in seduto comune. But the third reason for the Chamber sitting in seduto comune is so the President of the Republic can make a swearing in that he will be loyal to the Republic and will observe the Constitution. So if they're going to judge whether there should be a state of accusation against him, they've also got to listen and witness this swearing of loyalty to the Republic and observance of the Constitution. So Article 91 says, il Presidente della Repubblica, prima di assumere le sue funzioni, presta giuramento di fedeltà alla Repubblica e di osservanza della Costituzione dinanzi al Parlamento in seduta comune. So it says, prima di assumere le sue funzioni. So he can't do anything. He's been made through a secret vote of the parliamentarians, the President of the Republic, but he's not allowed to do anything until he's done this swearing in front of everyone in the Parliament in seduto comune. So that's got to be witnessed, and then they can judge if there should be an accusation against him, if there is some controversy of something he's done in any way. So the fourth reason for Parliament sitting in seduto comune is another election, another elective role. In Article 104 it says, la Consiglio Superiore della Magistratura sono eletti per un terzo dal Parlamento in seduta comune. So here, we're going to remember what the Consiglio Superiore della Magistratura is. It's a body which administers the magistrates. It's there to give the magistrates independence, so any promotions or concorsi or discipline or who judges what case, etc., is decided by this body, this constitutional organ. But a third are elected by our representatives in seduto comune. So, and they are elected tra professori ordinari di università in materia giuridica ed avvocati dopo 15 anni di esercizio. So they're selected or elected by our representatives from professors at universities of law, jurisprudence, and lawyers of 15 years experience. Those that have practiced for 15 years could become part of the Consiglio Superiore della Magistratura if all our representatives together so decide. Okay. And then, so that's the fourth reason. And the fifth reason is another elective role of this Parliament's in seduto comune. In Article 135 it says La Corte Costituzionale è composto di 15 giudici nominati per un terzo dal Presidente della Repubblica, per un terzo dal Parlamento in seduta comune, per un terzo dalla Suprema Magistratura Ordinaria e Amministrativa. Okay, so this is the Constitutional Court which judges whether laws are constitutional or must be abrogated or must be made invalidated, made unconstitutional. So this court really has power over the legislative process too. You know, the Parliament can make laws, and then the Constitutional Court can say, no, you can't do that. In England, it's a lot more difficult. It's because the Parliament really has supreme power. It could even make it illegal for any court to interfere like that, or just undo the Constitution with an ordinary law very simply. Here, the Constitutional Court, it really constrains the Parliament. It's limited by the Constitutional Court of Parliament. But a third of the judges are nominated by the Parliament in seduto comune, and also by the President of the Republic. Remember, he's also a guarantor of the Constitution. He's there to protect the Constitution and see that it's always observed within the institutional setting. So he is actually able to vote for the Constitutional Court, a third of the judges on the Constitutional Court, and also ordinary and administrative magistrates. So those working, the administrative magistrates work in judge the public system, the public laws are being observed by the public bodies, etc. And ordinary magistrates that judge, our public life generally, that all laws are being. They can vote for a third of the Constitutional Court. So remember, the fundamental principles say Italia è una Repubblica Democratica. So here we see every actor having their say, even all of us through our representatives are having our say on the highest possible court in the land, which really can constrain our legislative body or even our executives. So that's another role of this Parliament in seduto comune. Now, we move to the UK Parliament. So, UK Parliament consists of two houses. You've got the House of Commons and the House of Lords. But also you've got the Sovereign, which is the King or Queen. They are part of the Parliament. We consider the Parliament. The Parliament, as we know it now, actually started some hundreds of years ago when Scotland joined England and Wales in a treaty, an international treaty, to form the UK. So that's the UK Parliament. But the idea of the Parliament in England you can trace back to the Magna Carta in 1215, where the king's power was taken away and a rule of law was introduced. This introduces the idea of a body making laws which rule everywhere. So that's our idea of an assembly of representatives of people in an assembly discussing what are the rules and what should be the rules goes back to the Magna Carta. Before that, it was just the king's will was what rules. So the king had kings and queens had absolute power, and there was no idea of a parliament. Now, the UK Parliament holds legislative power just like Italy, but the difference is it's not constrained in any way. So you've got the Italian Parliament very constrained by the Constitution. The Italian Constitution, remember the first 12 articles are kind of values which cannot be changed. So they're kind of written in stone and can't be changed by our Parliament, the Italian Parliament. And it's very difficult to change the other articles of the Constitution. So the Italian Parliament is very restricted. If it makes a law, that law can be questioned whether it's constitutional or not, and can end up in the Constitutional Court and be refused, delegitimized. So that's the difference with our UK parliamentary legislative power. Very important to recognise the UK Constitution can be changed quite easily by an ordinary law of Parliament if it wants. We can even see moments in recent history where just the Speaker of the House, so just one member of Parliament, changed the Constitution. If we look at Brexit, the Speaker of the House before, it was always the government that decided the order and what was discussed in Parliament. The diary was written by the government, and they refused to discuss Brexit and a no-deal Brexit. And the Speaker of the House said no. We must discuss. If the Parliament wants, then we must discuss. And he's saying the Parliament has a say in the order and what is discussed in Parliament, changing the Constitution. So you could say he changed the Constitution just by that single decision. So we can see a big difference here. The UK Constitution isn't actually very clear. It's not written, and there's lots of different opinions by different authorities. Sometimes we have a constitutional crisis because there's no established definitive opinion. Here in Italy, you've got the Constitutional Court that says this is what the founding fathers intended, and this is what the Constitution means. It interprets the Constitution. In England, it's not always sure what to do and what the Constitution says, and often there's a battle between powers and institutions and bodies, and even maybe the courts, about what is the Constitution and how it should be interpreted. So the Parliament has a lot less constraints in that environment, a lot more confusion. We kind of often look at the situation in England and think, the Parliament says this because this is what's necessary. We're a little bit flexible, if you like, which can be useful in crisis times. The members of the House of Commons are elected by universal suffrage, which means everybody over the age of 18 can vote for a term of office of a parliament. A term of office normally is 5 years, and you know this is normal, just like Italy. Before, England was again similar to Italy, where many years ago it was the privileged and men which could be elected into the parliament, and the women had to fight for their rights, even though Italy came much later to this, after the war. The women got, the Second World War, the women got the right to vote. In England it was a long time before that. We have the suffragettes that fought for their vote in England. And the House proposes, approves or rejects a law. This is the only institution that can indefinitely approve an ordinary law for the whole of the UK. So it really is the Supreme Parliament. There are other parliaments in the UK, just like there are other parliaments in Italy, like Sardinia has a parliament in Italy. And in England we've got Scotland, we've got Wales, and we've got Northern Ireland. But the only institution that can indefinitely approve an ordinary law for the whole of the UK is the Parliament, the UK Parliament in London. Now, you've got the House of Lords. Remember, the House of Lords also are part of Parliament. These Lords aren't elected directly by the people. The members are either awarded membership by the Queen on advice of the Prime Minister, so the Prime Minister more or less chooses who can be, he's got a right to choose who can be a Lord. There's no fixed maximum number of Lords, so it can get bigger and bigger and bigger. But normally the Queen always the Queen does what the Prime Minister says. But like I said, it's not fixed. Our Constitution says that she awards this membership, not the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister only advises, even if it's always done like that. But you never know. We might have some crazy Prime Minister like Hitler, and she might one day just refuse to do what he says. So it is a little bit of a protection too, even though it's also a bit undemocratic. The Queen has no mandate from the people. No one voted for the Queen. Also, they're awarded to 26 archbishops, so we've also got a spiritual presence. Remember, the Church of England is the national or the state preferred religion. So the state religion is even though obviously, you know, as the state is separated from religion. There's no enforced religion, but we can say the Church of England has a very close relationship with the state. And 26 archbishops sit in the House of Lords, or they're inherited. 92 lords have their seats inherited. They're just passed down from family through the families. So this is the House of Lords. There's no direct election of the Lords. We can see that. And so for that reason, they don't have the legislative power, they can only delay legislation by 3 months, but not prevent it. You know, they're in the democratic process, they are just a wise category of people, bit like the Senate, even though the Senate has a lot of power in Italy because they're elected. But in England, they have the role of being the wise men, very old, often with long careers. All the ex-prime ministers sit there. Normally, they're there as a conservative force to keep the Parliament, the House of Commons, a bit with its feet on the ground, shall we say. And then you've got the Crown in Parliament. So part of Parliament is the Queen. The House of Commons must approve a proposal of law to make it an Act of Parliament. So when it's approved by both houses, or one house and then it's delayed, but eventually it becomes an Act of Parliament, but it's only enacted, it's only applied when the sovereign must give it royal assent to enact it, to put it into practice. So the Queen does actually have, you know, control here over what we can do. We can and can't do it in the country. Again, this is a convention, and she always signs and approves, gives assent to the laws. But again, if ever it came to a very destabilising force, very extreme force, fascism or whatever, she could turn around and say, no, I'm not going to give my royal assent, and that would lead to a constitutional crisis, because it would be lots of constitutionalists, authorities, etc. saying, what is the Constitution? And I think many agree that it needs to be given royal assent before it can be enacted. So it is a little bit of a... The Queen is the head of state, and so a bit super parts, a bit kind of from the outside. She can judge and also have a big influence. There's another power the Queen has, and that's the Queen's consent. This is again another convention where the Queen has consultative or veto powers over laws affecting the Queen's prerogatives and personal property. So if the Queen deems a law as hurting her, she can refuse to allow it to be debated even. And this has been done. There was a case when we went to the Iraq War, many members of Parliament wanted to make Parliament vote if we declare war or not. At the moment, it's the Queen must declare war on the advice of the Prime Minister. Only the Queen. She's the head of the armed forces. But the Parliament wanted this. They wanted to make a law that says the Parliament must declare law. She refused to give it her consent, so it never happened. She wanted to keep that power. Okay, so it does, and there's a lot of tax questions where she's refused to consent of a law being debated without her opting out, because it would have taxed her a lot of money, and she decided she would not give it her consent. So the Queen does have a lot of power that we can say is a bit of an abuse, but also a protection. She is a guarantor. If, you know, the next monarch, maybe he's completely mad, maybe we will want the system to change and not give them so much influence and authority. But at the moment, the English or the UK see the United Kingdom as a family, not like in Italy where it's a republic. We're a bit more of a family where some have privileges and different positions in the family, and there is a bit of super parts, a bit like a family where, you know, the mother maybe is a bit treated a bit special, and but she can come along and be a complete dictator if things get out of hand, etc., etc. Not so democratic as Italy, but also has its own way of preventing, you know, terrible despotic emergencies of you know, dictators, etc. By having this confusion, not such clarity, nothing written down. This can be useful, I think, and we've seen that a little bit in the past. Things seem to work, and why they seem to work, we won't change. If we have big problems from having a queen or a king because they abuse their power, probably we would question this, just because we are an educated first world country, I think.